Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, or tonight, we're talking about the Melian dialogue by Thucydides. Somebody in the comments kept complaining that I do this. Guys, it's a rocking chair. All right, I have a. This was the most expensive mistake I've ever made. This thing sucks to sit in. Okay. All right. Plus, I'm nervous. I gotta rock back and forth. They say it stresses them out. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm stressed out too. Okay. Somebody also said that I look like that I was James Dean smoking a pipe or something. James Dean would always smoke cigarettes, but yeah, I don't smoke cigarettes. But anyways, let's try to get into the Melian dialogue here. So Thucydides is writing this dialogue. Thucydides' History of the Peloponnesian War is an attempt at a accurate recount of actual history. Okay, we're starting to get the idea of accurate history, because before what we had was Herodotus, who was more concerned with just telling good stories. And Herodotus is very funny. I want to talk about him sometime, but because there's plenty of he does tell very good stories, and he digresses a lot. He's like, this thing reminds me of this thing, and that thing reminds me of this thing. What were we talking about? So he actually reminds me of myself a lot, because when I talk in this, you always start off with a clear idea of what you want to say, and then you actually sit down and start talking at a wall or a phone screen, and you just I have a tendency to just forget what I was trying to get across. But all practice. But Thucydides was trained by the Sophists, and from what I understand, they did not have in 400 or 416, 430 BC, they did not have a way of accurately recording people's conversations. And so these dialogues are essentially filled in by Thucydides. But the point is that sometimes Thucydides was there for the discussions and the actual dialogues that took place, but not always. So I'm sure that he's taking some creative liberties, but he knows the situation, he knows what's going on, he knows the outcome, and he fills in with good speeches and good rhetoric where he can. But the Melian dialogue is about this island called Melos, and they're a small island that was originally a colonized island by the Spartans. Now, during the Peloponnesian War, the Melians were they were neutral in the war. Now, what was happening was there's Athens and Spartans, and there's all kinds of different colonies that are allied with one side or the other, and Athens has somewhat of an empire at this point. So they have city-states paying tribute to them. And that's what they would like the Melians to do. They would like them to become essentially subjects to Athens' power. So the Melian dialogue is discussing this. So Athens sends representatives to Melos and says, Melos, we all know what we're here for, and we all know the situation. We're way stronger than you guys, and you have two options. You pay us tribute, you're allied with us, you're basically our subjects, or we kill you and enslave. We kill all the men and we enslave the women and children. Okay? And the Melians say, well, can't we just be friends? Like, can't we just be neutral? And the Athenians say, no. No, we don't like that idea. That sounds like a horrible plan. Because if we just let you be neutral, our people and the people that are our subjects are going to start to question why they're subjects and why we just happen to let this little island of Milos over here go. All right, they're going to start to question our superiority. They're going to start to say, well, what's the reason for them not just wiping out this clearly inferior force, right? It's a valid question. So they express that to the Melians. And the Melians say, well, this seems a little unfair. We like you guys, we like the Athenians, and we like the Spartans. Why does it have to be? Why do you have to come in and kill us? I mean, this is very unjust. We have nothing against either one of you. And the Athenians say, well, we don't want to hear any of that crap about justice. Okay, to us, the idea of justice is that the strong do what they can, while the weak suffer what they must. Okay, and okay, this sounds very familiar to Book 1 of Plato's Republic. Thrasymachus, he says, justice is the advantage of the stronger. So the Melians don't like this, obviously. And they say, well, don't you think that maybe this will look bad for you with your citizens, doing this sort of unjust act towards us? I say no. Actually, what our citizens and what our subjects think is just is that the strong do what they can. Pretty much is like, and they're gonna question us, like I said before. Let me see if I can find an accurate passage to describe this. Line 97. So far as right and wrong are concerned, they think that there is no difference between the two, that those who still preserve their independence do so because they are strong, and that if we fail to attack them, it is because we are afraid. And the Melians in line 98 say, since you will not let us mention justice, but tell us to give in to your interests, we too must tell you what our interests are, and if yours and ours happen to coincide, we must try to persuade you of the fact. Is it not certain that you will make enemies of all states who are at present neutral when they see what is happening here, and naturally conclude that in course of time you will attack them too? Does not this mean that you are strengthening the enemies you have already and are forcing others to become your enemies, even against their intentions and their inclinations? And the Athenians say, as a matter of fact, we are not so much frightened of states on the continent. They have their liberty, and this means that it will be a long time before they begin to take precautions against us. We're more concerned about islanders like yourselves, who are still unsubdued, or subjects who have already become embittered by the constraint which our empire imposes on them. These are the people who are most likely to act in a reckless manner and to bring themselves and us too into the most obvious danger. So they're just trying to. It's a cash grab for them. It's like taking candy from a baby, for the Athenians, and like they say, justice is the advantage of the stronger. So, and they make a claim that as so far as the Melians bring up that, well, look, from the way we see it, the gods aren't going to like this. The gods aren't going to like this unjust action. You know, they'll back us up. From our point of view, we're fighting a just battle. We're fighting evil. We're right, and you're wrong. And the Athenians say, well, you know, we believe in the same gods, and we have a similar conception of justice, but the only difference is that we have a bigger army than yours. Who do you think the gods are going to support? In fact, we're just going along with the way nature is. This is actually quite natural. So as far as your sort of trying to, there's a term that my brother uses. We call it, as far as you moral fagging us over this, we don't want to hear it. Essentially. They're very brutal and very blunt about it. They don't pull any punches. They say at one point, they say, we must say that we congratulate you on your simplicity, but do not envy your folly. Like, you guys are, I mean, have this sort of state of blissful ignorance. Well, it's time to wake up, Melians, because we're much stronger than you. And we have no reason. We worship the same gods. Just so happens that we're way better than you. They probably like us a lot more than they like you, to be honest. So, what do you have to say about that? And so they say, well, what about the Spartans? The Spartans will surely come and back us up. And they say, based off of some sympathy? I don't think so. The Spartans are not going to back you up based off of some sort of, they're not going to put themselves in danger to serve some sort of, this is not worth it for the Spartans. So what you're really doing here is relying on things, hope, okay, where there is none. And that is very wrong for you to be doing, right? Faith, hope, and charity are Christian virtues. They are not Athenian virtues. Hope, where there is no hope, is actually a vice, according to the Athenians. All right, because it'll get you killed. Right, Pandora's box. When Pandora lets all the evils out of the box, the last thing that she lets out is hope. So hope is deemed as an evil as well. Hope where there is no hope, because they even say in the I believe in the story that look, hope is all well and good when you have forces to back it up, but it so happens that you don't have any of those, and we do. And so the Athenians do exactly what they said they would do. They attack Milos, and they kill all of the military-aged men and enslave all the women and children. And I believe Alcibiades had adopted a child. Either he adopted a child or he married a woman, and from Milos, and treated them very, very well. And I believe this was looked upon as being a quite, what a nice thing to do. How virtuous is that? This is charity, right? This is a very nice thing for him to do. Yet he was one that pushed very heavily towards invading Milos. Okay? So, take that virtue with a little grain of salt. A bit hypocritical. But yeah, this is Thucydides writing a cautionary tale for idealists and saying, if you try to rely on some sort of cosmic justice, you're going to be sorely disappointed. It's the way things are and the way things ought to be. And you need to be aware of the way things are. So that's the Melian dialogue. But you think about, maybe there is some sort of cosmic justice, because they did end up losing the Peloponnesian War after all. I don't know if you could take it like that, but I think that would be the same as watching a dog kill a little family of mice, right? You look at a little family of mice and they're so cute and so innocent and cuddly, and a dog just comes in there and rips them to shreds, and you can't help but be a little bummed about that. You're like, oh man, you know, you ever watch like National Geographic? A lot of the animals just getting slaughtered and like living in the state of nature, like the Hobbesian state of nature of war of all against all, and you're like, good God. But it would be like watching some dog or whatever kill a family, a cute family of mice that pose no threat to the dog, and then he goes and fights a lion and gets killed by the lion, and then saying, well, that happened because he killed the family of mice. Is it because he killed the family of mice, or is it because he challenged a lion? I think the Athenians challenged a lion. All right, they got a little too cocky. They got a little too confident. There was probably no disadvantage in taking Milos out, really. And as far as they were going, they viewed that as being a quite just action to even talk to them and say, look, you pay us tribute or you die. All right, we're giving you a very fair deal here. It's like, don't try to talk down a car salesman. like a car salesman could just say, look, here's the price. Here's what it is. Of course, car salesmen are a little more crafty about it and make you feel like you're not getting robbed when you're gonna pay either way. Okay, the dealership has to make a little money. I don't know if that example is even remotely close to what I'm talking about. But it also makes me think a little bit about whether or not this type of thing could happen, could fly in modern day politics. And I don't think it would. You know, people nowadays would read the Melian dialogue and say, and would definitely side with the Melians. You know, within our own country, let's say the United States try to invade some island, the same situation, and we gave the same dialogue to whoever, this imaginary island of poor people. Would we get away with that? Probably. We would probably just not make that decision. But that's that would be, and that would be like, well, it's just more because we are convinced of the same justice system that that the Melians had, which is the justice of the weaker. This is due to Christianity, which is an idea of justice from the perspective of the weaker. Okay, now there's something to this. All right, I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying that this is the way it is. Superior forces beat weaker forces. Okay, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with not being okay with doing what the Athenians did, but that would be what Nietzsche would call having a historical sense, sort of a historical sense of what morality is, and how morality changes and evolves based off of the circumstance. And the mistake is thinking that the morality system that we have now is like the peak or the pinnacle or the end state of what morality should have been and always was, and it hasn't changed since back then, when the reality is it absolutely has. Okay, Christians might disagree with me, I understand, but at the same time, read the Old Testament. What were they doing in the Old Testament? They were having some Melian dialogues with people. Sometimes not even. Sometimes they just went in there and massacred everybody. All right. and there's all kinds of I don't want to say excuses, but ways of getting around what happened in the Old Testament. That's maybe a topic for another video, but if there's always been an objective standard for morality, how can we go ahead and be okay with what happened in the Old Testament? I think reading the Old Testament versus the New Testament is pretty good proof of how morality evolves. Okay, because it's the same culture, and they're sort of coming up with some different ideas. At least Christ does. But the fact that we're not okay with slavery nowadays, and slavery was okay as long as you were sort of nice to your slaves back in the Bible days. Which, by the way, it depends on what Bible days you're talking about, New Testament or Old Testament. The point is, they were still having slaves. There was nothing in there that said, no slaves. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent. That's a rabbit hole for another video, but I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you read the Melian dialogue by Thucydides.